Welcome back, students. In yesterday's class, if you remember, we have talked about the subject-verb agreement, and we have discussed few important issues that are of prime concern when we talk about subject-verb. And the first thing that we discussed in yesterday's class was what do we understand by the term subject-verb agreement? And as you remember, I told you it simply means that a finite verb must agree with the subject in number and person. We discussed four rules. The first rule was that if the subject consists of two or more singular nouns or pronouns joined by and, it takes a plural verb. The second was that if both of them refer to the same person, then the verb is singular. But if both the subjects they refer to two different persons with the help of the definite article the verb is plural. Then the third rule that we learned was when the subject consists of two nouns or pronouns joined with or as well as, the verb agrees with the first of them. I gave you an example yesterday in the class with the sentence, all the passengers with the driver were killed in the accident. Since the first subject is plural, that's why the verb taken is also plural. Then the last rule that we discussed was when two subjects are connected with not only but also the correlative conjunction, the verb agrees with the second subject. And the sentence that we took in this was not only the master but his servants also are hard at work. So the emphasis is on the second subject, the servants, and that is why the verb that goes with it is plural. Now in today's class we are going to take two or three more rules to this, and then we are going to talk about errors which are there in conjunctions. The next rule that we take in today's class regarding subject-verb agreement is that either or, neither nor. With this, we have the clause when two subjects are connected with either or neither nor, the verb agrees with the second subject. As for example, either the section officer or the assistant is responsible for this error. Remember what the rule is? In case of either or and neither nor, when the two subjects are connected with either of these, the verb agrees with the second subject. So the sentence that we have taken up is either the section officer or the assistant is responsible for this error. So the second subject that happens to be in the sentence is a singular. That is why the verb that follows is singular. The next rule that we have is either, neither, each, everyone, one of the, and none. All these words, I again repeat, either, neither, each, everyone, one of the, and none. All of these, they take a singular verb. All these words, they take a singular verb, and I will give you three sentences. The first sentence, each of these two shops is doing good business. So the sentence begins with each. Each of these two shops is doing good business. The verb is singular because the subject happens to be each. The second sentence, every one of these workers is a trained technician. The sentence when it begins with every one of these workers is a trained technician. The third sentence, either of these two applicants is fit for the job. Either of these two applicants is fit for the job. So we remember, students, the rule says either, neither, each, everyone, one of the, none. All these take a singular verb. Now there's the last rule in this particular segment. Nouns qualified by each and everyone when joined by and take a singular verb. What's the last rule? The last rule says nouns qualified by each and every one when they are joined together by and they take a singular verb. As for example, every boy and every girl in the class pursues at least one hobby. I repeat the sentence, every boy and every girl in this class pursues at least one hobby. So these are the rules pertaining to the subject-verb agreement. And in this particular class, we are going to take another important topic, and that happens to be conjunctions. If students, you remember well, what are conjunctions? Conjunctions are, joining words are called conjunctions. So in this particular segment, we are going to talk about errors in the use of conjunctions. We have two categories of conjunction. One is the simple conjunction and the second is the correlative conjunctions. When we talk about conjunctions, the three rules that we have is that should not be used before interrogative adverbs or pronouns in indirect narration. The first rule is that should not be used. That as a conjunction should not be used before interrogative adverbs or pronouns in the indirect narration. So suppose you have a sentence like, he asked me that when he could come to see me. This is an incorrect sentence. I repeat the sentence. He asked me that when he could come to see me. So this is an incorrect sentence, and the correct version of the sentence would be, he asked me when he could come to see me. The correct sentence is, he asked me when he could come to see me. So that will not be followed by when. The second is, since shows from which time. Since as a conjunction shows from which time. It is preceded by present perfect tense and followed by past indefinite tense. The second rule is, since shows from which particular time, it is preceded by present perfect tense and followed by past indefinite tense. As for example, 3 months have passed since he last wrote to me. Example is, 3 months have passed since he last wrote to me. Then the third rule states the three conjunctions until, as long as, and while. To express time before, we use until. To express time, how long, we use as long as and while. So while using the three conjunctions, that is until, as long as, and while, we have to be a little careful, because if we have to express time before, we have to use the conjunction until, and to express time how long, we use as long as or while. So suppose we have a sentence which says, wait while I come. The sentence is, wait while I come. This is an incorrect sentence. The correct version of the sentence would be, wait until I come. Then you have another sentence, until there is corruption in India, there can be no progress. Suppose you have a sentence, students, which says, until there is corruption in India, there can be no progress. So this is an incorrect sentence. The correct sentence would be, and the correct conjunction to use would be, as long as, as long as there is corruption in India, there can be no progress. As long as there is corruption in India, there can be no progress. So you have to remember that you are not using until. You have to use the conjunction as long as. And the second thing that we talked about while we were discussing conjunction is another set of conjunctions which are called the correlative conjunctions. Correlative conjunctions are always in pairs, and that is why they are called correlative conjunctions. Both of them go together. We cannot use one conjunction without using the another. And in this particular section, we have few correlative conjunctions which we must remember that they have to be used almost together. The first one is although, yet. Although and yet. Although he was hard pressed for money, yet he did not refuse to help me. The second, as and as. Sentence, he is as young as he looks to be. The third pair of correlative conjunction is both and. Both and. Both Mohan and his partner are equally responsible for the rapid progress of this concern. Fourth pair is either or. He is either ignorant or foolish. You cannot use either with nor can you use neither with or. So either has to go with or, and the fifth set is the neither with nor. So either goes with or and either goes with nor. So neither relatives nor friends offered him any help. The next category is hardly and when. Hardly had I gone to bed when a thief broke into the house. So the two pairs are hardly and when. Both the conjunctions go together. Hardly had I gone to bed when a thief broke into the house. The next pair is scarcely when. Scarcely when. Scarcely had he entered the room when the telephone bell rang. I repeat the sentence. Scarcely had he entered the room when the telephone bell rang. And the last three combinations are, the last three pairs are not only but also. This is an important one which is frequently used. He not only beat me but also abused me. Not only always go with but also. No sooner than, THAN. No sooner goes with than. The sentence that can be used is, no sooner was the river in flood than the bridge gave away. I repeat the sentence. No sooner was the river in flood than the bridge gave way. And then we have the last two correlative conjunctions, so that. So that. He is so poor that he cannot educate his children properly. So and that, both of them go together. He is so poor that he cannot educate his children properly. And the last one that we take is whether or. Whether or. He has not informed me whether he'll be able to attend my marriage or not. So students, we have talked about conjunction errors pertaining to conjunctions and error pertaining to correlative conjunctions. While dealing with correlative conjunctions, we have to keep in mind that they always go in pair. For your convenience, I'll just repeat the pairs for you. It's just a recap of what we have discussed a few minutes back. Although goes with yet, as and as, both with and, either or, neither nor, hardly when, scarcely when, not only but also, no sooner than, so that, such that, and whether or. So this much for the class today. In today's class, we have taken up the remaining portion of the subject-verb agreement and we have discussed about errors in conjunction. In tomorrow's class, we are going to discuss errors in adjectives and adverbs. Thank you.